All right, folks. Simon here. This is a special match we got here today. It is the very first semifinals match of the Q3 2022 August Beginner Tag Tournament. This time between Enoviox and Mazks. Enoviox is undefeated in this tournament. He won every single game against all of his opponents in his group. Mazks, on the other hand, did not win every single game, but did come out on top in a blitz tiebreaker for first place in his group. So looking like it's going to be a pretty solid match here between these two top players in this beginner setup. So this is a 6x6 game, as you can see by the board right here, and it is played with a 15-minute timer and a 10-second increment. And these two guys, let's take a look at their rating: 1490, 1568. Not too many games for either of these two players because they are both pretty new. However, Enoviox, if I'm not mistaken, is the one who won the Gen Con tournament just a couple months ago. So, and he also learned the game, I believe, the day he played the tournament. So, picked it up really, really quick. So, here we go on with game one of Mazks versus Enoviox in this semifinals match. Mazks in white, Enoviox in black. All right, and we see adjacent corners here and going straight for that center control as white. Let's see, going for that mirrored opening, it looks like. We talk about this opening in the openings video of TAC University, part 1. And we see that standard placement here with that capstone ready to come across. I'm thinking that some of these guys may have viewed my openings video on TAC University to try and get a head start against the competition, but it looks like black has come over, cut off white's threat here. Instead of white shifting gears and playing at C2 and going for the horizontal, instead just kept going for that vertical, which is a way to go. I think I would have liked to switch gears first, but white now playing off here, keeping black from continuing making that horizontal line, and also trying to go for their own threat here. Black's playing down below. White now finally switching gears, going around here, trying to cut off black from going for this vertical threat. And I think that's important right now. Black has a lot of power in this position. Let's see, does black have momentum? 1, 2, 3, 4 versus 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, I believe black does have momentum right now. And so white is going to have to take that into account when making these next few moves. And we do cover momentum in the momentum video of TAC University. White now continuing on for this horizontal threat. Black can keep making moves to go for the horizontal threat themselves. Potentially playing up here at B6 or A5, or playing here at F3. I think playing at F3 is the better move right now. There's a lot more potential for recaptures and things like that over here. Black does decide to play over at F3. Not making a attack threat yet, but threatening one on the following turn. And we can see white taking their time a little bit. Both players taking, on average, under 10 seconds per turn, as they're both above that 15-minute mark, which we started at. And we do have that 10-second increment, meaning they had 10 seconds added to their turn after every, or to their time after every turn. So we see white continuing to think about this one. I believe white needs to get that capstone down at some point. Putting it down over here against the wall, not the greatest because it is against the edge of the board here, but it might be one of the better moves. Also, playing it here, I think would be a really strong position, playing it right here at b4, because then it could come up, it could come right. Playing here also works really well because it can come right onto c3. Black could, in order to stop white from using that capstone in that way, could decide to bring the capstone over themselves and do that, but white would just fill in here and continue that vertical threat. So I think that what black wants to do here is potentially play up at e4. And playing up at e4, what that does is that continues going in this direction in the horizontal, and it also keeps this capstone in the mix of things, able to come up, capture, make that connection, keep white out of it. Because if white captures here, it still doesn't do anything if black comes up. So I think that that was a pretty solid move playing there at e4. And no, they cannot hear me, even if they were tuned into the stream, which they are not, because I am streaming live on Twitch. If they were tuned in, there is a delay, a 30-second delay, so they would be, yeah, that would be tough. So we are, let's see, we're looking at white playing up above. Now, I think what white's going to try and do here is white's going to try and play maybe up above here, capture left, and make that vertical tack threat in this direction. And I think that that's pretty smart because playing these defensive moves that are able to come in and really mess with a lot of what black's going on. Now, black does have a tack threat here. Capturing up or capturing down onto e3 would be a road. So white's got to stop that at this moment. They can do that by capturing left with d5, which kind of plays into what they were going for earlier. They could also do the same thing, capturing left with d4. Again, plays into what they were going for previously. I think that left with d4 would... I'm not sure. Oh, instead they go right with b4. That also goes into the same sort of plan of going for that vertical threat here. And they're opening this up. Black able to recapture onto this. Now, white probably wants to capture right onto c3 here. What that does is it protects this c4 stack and also creates their own vertical tack threat at the same time. They could just play up at d6 to make the threat that way, but then that leaves c4 getting captured, and you don't want that if you're white. Ooh, white's surprisingly playing at a2. I'm not really sure about that move, because now almost assuredly black is going to be capturing onto c4, whether that would be with b4 or c5. Not sure, but I think probably with b4, that makes the most sense to me. That would be a really strong capture. White, I'm not sure why the a2 there. I think that the b3 right would have been the best move, because that would have, again, interrupted black's threat and protected this c4 stack, could recapture it, and created their own vertical tack threat all at the same time. So I think that was the move to play here, but we do see that it is kind of throwing black for a loop here, doesn't really know what to think. Black now plays at e1, trying to cut off white from making that vertical or that horizontal threat, even though black had the opportunity to make their threat first. They had momentum. So they're giving up momentum to play this defensive move. And I'm not sure how that's going to pan out for him, because now white does have momentum here. White can come down with e3, and then even if black recaptures here, white can capture on top of that, win that capture war. Sure, they're giving up this potential location, but they can then cut up and interrupt a lot of what black's doing in that horizontal direction. And so, I don't know. I don't know if black wanted to do that there. I think they should have continued on, pressed their momentum there. Been a little bit more aggressive. But we'll see how this turns out. White taking his time here. We do see the time difference, 12:20 on the clock here for white and 14:07 on the clock for black. So playing a little bit quicker. Enoviox, I believe, is mostly in control of this board, but white does have some opportunities here to really, really cut into things and mess up black. And I think that first play is going to be capturing onto c3 here with the capstone. That's still a viable move. It's still a strong move. It can do what white wants it to do. And then after that move, then I would say white would be in control of this board. And it looks like that's exactly what they're doing here. In control. In control. So now we got the attack threat from white. Black's got to do something to stop this. They can play up at d6 to stop it. That's a viable move here. They could also play a flat at... they couldn't play another flat. That's the only flat they could play, but they could make captures. That's one of the captures they could make, and they sure did that. Let's see how that's going to turn out for him here. Capturing over allows white to recapture or to capture left and continue in that direction. Now, this doesn't further black's threat exactly. If they do want to make any sort of threat in the next turn, black is going to need to capture onto c4, and white has the capstone ready for it. White instead saying, all right, fine, I'll shift gears. I'll play over here at f2 and make my own horizontal tag threat. So white's now got a horizontal tag threat. Black has to respond to that. Now, one of the ways black can respond to that is by capturing left with f3. Capturing left with f3 cuts off white's ability to make a threat in that direction, but also creates their own vertical tag threat here. So capturing left with f3, what that does... Oh, and he did it. Okay, so now what black can do on the next turn is capture right here. And then what that would do is that would give black the road. So white's going to have to do something to stop that. Let's make this a little more obvious. Okay, that's the move he could make. In addition, he could also make this move. Either of those would be viable, coming down or coming over. And so as long as he's making that vertical connection, he's got that tag threat. So white's got to do something about this. That was a really strong move because it canceled out white's road threat, but also created his own road threat in the process. Now, white can easily interrupt this. White can capture left, or white can capture right down here and make that tag threat. I think that was the stronger move. Made the tag threat, forced black to come down with that capstone. I think that capstone coming down is a big win for white at the same time as it's also kind of a win for black. White forced black's capstone to move to get out of that strong position, strong offensive position, and move right into defense. And so now black has a lot of power though. Black can come left at some point and cut off white's capstone from the rest of their pieces. Now that would be pretty brutal, and black's got a lot of power up here, a lot of control that they can deal with, that they can work with, and they can keep building on. So it'll be interesting to see how this turns out. Looks like white's playing up here at d3, still trying to go for that horizontal tag threat. Playing at f3 on the next turn, white would have a tag threat of their own. Currently, not a threat from black, but able to make one on the next turn. Let's see if white plays at f3 here. This would be sneaky because the sneakiness comes from this throw. Throwing all the way up onto e3 with e1. Now, not crazy sneaky or anything, but this is a beginner tournament and a lot of these sneaky type moves are easily missed. So that is the sort of threat that I think would be really fun to see here, is white play at f3 so they can make that big throw for the tag threat. And not only is it a tag threat with a throw, but there's also the capstone is involved in this threat. And so capstone blindness is a real thing. It is easy to miss threats that have those capstones in the line. So white now thinking what to do on this turn. Instead plays up above. This is not a tag threat for white. Not a tag threat. black can play down at D1. So, or play over here at F3. I think F3 would be the better choice because it also stops white from making that threat of their own. Also playing at F4. All of those work as tack threats for black. I'm not sure if he wants to make a capture at this point, but dropping a flat is good here. I say that dropping a flat is probably the right move because black does have that capstone move. He can come left. He can cut off white's ability to make any threat, whether it be horizontal or vertical, just with that capstone move. 3d3 left. Or 3d2 left, sorry. 3d2 left would cut off basically all of white's threats. So he's got the option. So he can play flats now and get those flats out on the board, build himself some territory and some control over the board so he can come back afterwards and clean up, make some roads. But yeah, he doesn't have to worry too much about white's threats at the moment because he has basically that protection. Let's see what he does here. We do see that time difference, 9.5 minutes to 11.5 minutes here. Enoviox taking his time, trying to figure out what the best play is here. Probably looking into the momentum and how capture wars are going to play out if he makes certain moves. I think it's tough to make any sort of capture here just because this capstone is right there to come up onto to C4 and really mess everything up. So I think that that's going to be a tough decision to make. Comes up, I was thinking about this one as well. So this one doesn't create a tack threat right away, but what it does do is cut off white's ability to make a vertical threat with the D5 left capture. Now, white, however, has the opportunity to drop a wall here at D4, and then that wall can capture up onto D5. So that could be potentially dangerous for black. Black would not be able to, let's see, would they? Could black capture up and smash a wall here? Wouldn't be able to leave 2 behind because that would just spread across for the road. So leave 1, no, that would also fail. So black cannot smash a wall if it's placed here at D4 because it would lead to a road for white. So that's important to note here. So white has the opportunity to drop a wall here that cannot be smashed. If it does get smashed, white will win with a road. So this capstone is partially blocked in here. White decides to play at F3 now, making their own sneaky tack threat, the one that I mentioned earlier, tossing that E1 stack up onto E3. Let's see if black sees it, and if they do see it, how are they going to respond? I think one of the ways to respond would just be to capture down with E2. Capturing down with E2 would be a perfectly fine defense to this. Filling in at E2 would not lead to white having a road right away, and black would be able to use this stack to spread upwards for any other flats that were placed. If a wall gets dropped here, black can drop up here a flat to make that road threat, or potentially drop a flat here at F4 to make a road threat. That way it's either a placement here, or a capstone thrown up to smash. A lot of options. Black has a lot of options here. This is a really close game. We're right here around turn 19, and typically on our high level games for our high, like, top 10 people, they tend to kind of have their games. Oh, and he missed it. Black missed the tack threat from white. Let's see if White sees his own tack threat, makes the move. Yep, he does. White takes the win here with a sneaky tack threat, sneaky road. Takes game one, goes to Mazks. Congratulations to Mazks for winning game one. That was a really nice sneaky road threat. Easy to miss because of that capstone and the flat toss. So well done. All right, folks, that's going to do it for game one. Game two was played immediately after this one, but I'm going to break this up because that would be an hour plus long video and nobody wants that. So check out the next one coming out in just a couple days. So thanks everybody for watching. Be sure to check out the description below for all things tack, especially the Discord server, which is where you can find all sorts of resources like strategy guides and people to play with, whether that be on playtac.com or asynchronously through the Discord, or even on our little map that we have. You can pin your location and people can find your general whereabouts, and if they live close, hey, you can meet up and play some tack in person, which is honestly just really fun to do, and I love doing that. So thanks again, and until next time, have a great day and happy tacking.